everyone. We are back on. This is Katya here from I'm Adopted, of course, and we are now starting our live video, our live talk for our journeys here with I'm Adopted. Hello, Baston 1975. Thanks for joining us again. And we are going to wait here, and I will be joined here in a moment by Yael Adler. She's gonna share her story and her journey as an adoptee with us. I see, hello, Ashley_Blondie. Hi. And we're gonna wait for some more people to join in. Hello, Alex. And Yael should be on here in just a minute, and we will get this talk going. I apologize for the delay, but better late than never. So we will be in just a moment and going. I can't believe it's the new year already, past the new year. Hello, Alex Gilbert. We are getting on with this, and I'm gonna see as soon as Yael joins in. There she is. Let's see. We are gonna send her us to join in. Hello, Caitlin. It's so hard for me to pronounce names on here. Hey, Yael.
Hello. How are you, Katya?
I'm doing good. Am I pronouncing your name right?
Yes, you are. Actually.
Yael.
You got it. Yael. Yes.
Awesome. Very good. I love that name. It's so beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I'm just glad we got our live to work now. And hello, Michelle, again. I'm so glad you joined. Have you met Michelle?
I have not.
Okay, yeah, she's the founder of Baby Be Brave, and
oh yes, yes.
I'm
sorry, I didn't realize her. Right, her first name didn't click at first. Yes, we actually recently connected.
Oh yes, that's so awesome. She's amazing, and
yes.
a Romanian adoptee as well. And
yes,
it's so cool to just meet other people who are not only adoptees but are adoptees from where you're from. I always think it's awesome, but it's hard. I don't know about you if you can relate, but sometimes if you haven't met people in person, but you only follow their Instagram account, and if it's not their real name, I know them by their Instagram name, but not their actual name.
Right, exactly.
What's their real name in life?
Right, so. Exactly.
Hello,
but yes,
Daniel.
no, it's been really cool connecting with all these different adoptees from all over. It's been really exciting.
Definitely. I agree. And I think it's just like risen or grown since the pandemic happened. I think a lot of us have realized that because people are going online more. And I don't know about you, but ever since before the pandemic, I never knew there was an online adoptee community.
No, I didn't know that either. And I'm finding so much. It's really great, from support groups to, organizations like yours. And there's just this whole adoption community out there that I was never privy to. So it's been really exciting to connect with people from all over and listen to everybody's stories and experiences. And I've really enjoyed it.
Definitely. Yeah, I see more people. Hello, Danielle. We'll just give a few minutes before we start, just for people to join in.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Yes, Korean adopted, and so great to be in a room with other adoptees. I know you both. Yes, Michelle. So, yeah, I can't believe we're in the new year already. It's already February.
It's crazy. Yes, I feel like once the holidays hit, it's just like the whole year just zooms by, and it's like, where did the year go? It happens all so fast.
Mm-hmm. Well, I do sometimes think there's a January slump because it's like a letdown after the rush of the holidays,
right.
But it's kind of nice when you're regathering yourself for the new year. Everyone's got their resolutions.
Yes, yes.
I wanted to ask everyone, where is everyone joining from? Hi from Moscow, from New Zealand. Hi, Alex Kush. How's your internship going? Alex Kush, he is also an ambassador from Romania for I'm Adopted, and he's now doing an internship in Germany. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's super exciting.
Yes. That's
And
great. I
then,
see my friend Kathy, my fellow author, joined. Hi, Kathy. Thanks for
oh, that's
joining.
so awesome. Yes, I definitely want to talk all about your book.
Oh,
Um,
thank you. Yes,
I feel
definitely.
like we all just aspire to write a book at some point. I know I do. Even just one book, like props to those who've like produced one after another. I know with the pandemic happening, I know some people who have said that they started a book and then they changed their whole outlook on the book ever since the pandemic because it just didn't fit anymore.
Yes.
Like depending on what they're writing, of course.
Right. Yeah, I always joke because, with kids, a full-time job, I have another baby on the way. I always say, I
Oh,
barely have time to read, let alone write a book. I don't know how I managed it, but I somehow did. So,
yeah, that's awesome. Because
yes.
you're already a mother of how many again?
I have two girls and I have a boy who's still cooking, but I got a few more
Oh,
weeks and he'll be here shortly. Yeah. So I've
wow.
been busy.
Your life's gonna change a lot. Like, do you
Yeah.
feel like I know there's always a big change like after your first baby, and I just can't
Yes.
imagine like if it changes more and more with a second, third
It
baby.
does. Yes, I feel like it's always changing. They're always keeping you on your toes for sure.
Well, that's awesome. Well, I guess we'll go ahead and get started. Oh,
Okay, great.
Alex says lost count of the hearts here, a lot of them in the community here. Well, thank you for all the love you're giving to us and Yael.
Thank you.
Very true, Alex. Yes. So I guess we'll go ahead and start. I
Okay.
had the privilege, for everyone in the community, had the privilege of getting to speak with Yael last week and get to hear some of her story. And it's crazy. We found out how much we really relate to each other and just the
Yeah.
similarities we have. And I know we didn't even cover everything just with one call. So I look forward to hearing more from you today. So I was just going to go ahead and let you just take the role to begin with. Just start from the beginning. I know for everyone who does not know context, Yael, she is a Romanian adoptee to the US, to New Jersey. And I don't want to give too many spoilers, so I'll let you begin. Just the story of like where in Romania you were born, the adoption.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here and talking to you. And thank you for everybody who's joined the conversation. I think I want to just start out by saying that this past year and a half has been so eye-opening for me. Um, I've just learned so much, and for many adoptees, adoption is trauma. But for me, my experience has been a little different, where I have been truly grateful for my adoption and grateful to my birth mother for making that decision to put me up for adoption, because it's really given me a chance at a better life, a life that doesn't involve arranged marriages as early as age 12 or 13.
Wow.
A life that's given me access to a full education, a career that I've been able to pursue, independence, and just so many things that had I had grown up in Romania and been a part of the Roma community, I just never would have had. So that's kind of my outlook, where I'm just so grateful for my adoption, for that decision, that I really had to take those steps to thank my birth mother and, put that out there, because my life would have just been so, so different. So I
Wow.
just wanted to start by saying that. Um, and yeah, it all kind of started where I was cleaning out my mother's apartment, helping her to put it up for sale. And I came across this big binder filled with documents, a video, photos. And, I'm like, what is this? And it quickly occurred to me that these were all things relating to my adoption that I had never seen before. All of a sudden, I'm seeing names, I'm seeing dates, I'm seeing places, I'm seeing just all of these things. And it was just such a wild experience that kind of fueled my curiosity to want to get answers, want to learn more, want to piece together, my adoption story, which I really knew nothing about. I always knew that I was adopted, but I really only had some small bits and pieces. I never had the full picture. So kind of finding this treasure, made me really want to get answers. So I kind of started there, and I tracked down the attorney who handled my adoption 28 years earlier.
Wow.
And by connecting with him, it really led to a birth family search. It led to a reunion, and it just led to me uncovering so many things where I now have such a clearer picture of my life. So it was really such an incredible experience.
Wow, that's crazy. And I already have so many questions for you from the beginning. Like, how did that make you feel knowing that just right in the house you grew up in had all these documents that were answers to your story? Kind of like, how did that make you feel? Did you have any like resentment towards your parents, or did it just like emotionally, what was that like for you?
Yeah, it was just kind of seeing all of it for the first time was a very strange feeling. My parents were always open to an extent where, we always spoke about adoption, and I always knew that I was adopted. But yeah, I never knew these details before. And it kind of just, like I said, fueled this curiosity to get answers. And not just from, about my adoption story, but also from my mother. It gave me an opportunity to kind of open dialogue with her and, ask her questions that I never asked her. Because really prior to me finding this, I had never really pursued, getting answers. I was never really in a place in my life where I felt like anything was missing, or I wanted to, I felt this need to seek something out. So it was really when I came across this information that all of a sudden I'm like, I have to piece this together. This is this whole part of my life that I just never knew about. So it was kind of a weird feeling, but it was kind of exciting for me because I knew that it would just kind of start this whole new adventure and start this whole process of finding out answers and getting clarity about a part of my life that I never knew before.
Wow, yeah. And it's like not only a journey for you, but even just for your adoptive parents. I know in the adoptee community, we talk a lot about the adoption triad, which is the adoptee, adoptive parents, and then the birth parents. But also, I think a lot of people forget to include, siblings, whether they're adopted siblings, adoptive siblings, birth siblings. Like that's also part of it.
Absolutely.
And you grew up as an only child, right?
I did. Yes. I remember us talking about that. That was one of the things we had in common. Yes. I did grow up as an
Yes.
only child. Um, and that was a big thing that I uncovered later on, was that I had a sister. um, all of these years, growing up as an only child. And only children can relate to, always kind of thinking about having a sibling, wanting a sibling, those kind of
For
feelings.
sure.
And then to one day wake up and realize that in a foreign country somewhere, this whole time you've had a sister only 3 years older than you. And the two of you have just been living completely different lives.
Yeah,
And that was something, really crazy to wrap my head around.
definitely. And I can relate to you too because I was an only child, and I would always tell people growing up that. Sorry, I saw Alex commented something. Hello, everyone. If you happen to be joining this conversation later in the talk, this will be posted to the I'm Adopted Instagram. Ah, okay, yes. For those of you just joining in, if you miss out on the beginning, please watch again. It will be there later. But back to what I was saying is like growing up as an only child, there's not, I don't know about you, but I did not ever find many other only children. A lot of families have multiple kids, and so it is very different. And I struggle too because I thought deep down in my heart, like, I know I'm related to other people, and I know I'm so sure I have siblings, and I would always just ask for siblings. But
Yeah.
especially people I knew, like, on the other side of the world, surely there's other people, siblings, and I feel like it's even different finding out if you have older siblings versus younger siblings.
Yes.
Um, yeah, uh, yeah. So growing up, I know we'll get to like just more of what you found out in reunion because that's super important. But I do want to know just like you felt growing up, like um, how how did it make you feel being adopted? You said that um, you really felt a lot like complete, not really like anything was missing, even though you had curiosities about. Were you told that you were adopted? Because you were adopted at what age again, too?
I was adopted at the age of 2. And yes, my parents from the get go always told me that I was adopted. We always had conversations about it. They always, they would read children's books to me on adoption, and it was always something that I was fully aware of, but it wasn't something that I necessarily connected to because I didn't really know too many other adoptees. I certainly didn't know about all the organizations and all the groups that there are out there that like I do now. And I just, I just kind of felt like my life was complete, and I didn't really give much thought to my adoption until I turned 30, and I started to reflect a little bit more about my adoption, and then coming across these documents and these photos and this video, it just kind of all came together, and it was almost like a sign for me, like now is the this is the point in my life where um, it's time to get answers, and I want to explore this further, and that's what I did.
Wow, that's awesome. And it's like you were 30, so there was so much of your life like you explored or experienced like so many of the things leading up to this point. I'm sure, and it probably changed your whole outlook on being 30 and really exploring your roots then. And so tell us again about just what you did to find your birth family, and were your adoptive parents supportive of you in this?
Yeah, so I tracked down the attorney who handled my adoption. I don't really know why I started there, but I figured that would be a good place to start. So I, asked my mother, what was the name of that attorney who handled our adoption? Because I knew he was in Philadelphia, which wasn't very far from us.
Mm-hmm.
So she gave me his name, and I did a quick Google search, and I believed that I had found him based on, the information out there. And I just kind of said, what the heck? I'm going to send him an email and see what happens. So I send him an email, and literally a few short hours later, he responds to my email and he calls me. And I was just like,
That's so
oh
quick.
my God, am I really speaking to the attorney who handled my adoption 28 years earlier? Like, that's insane. So we had this initial phone call, and I kind of just explained to him that I'm at the point in my life where I'd really like to explore my adoption further and get some clarity on my circumstances and all of that, and he offered so generously to help me. And it was because of him that he connected me to somebody in Romania who does these birth family searches on the side. Just this beautiful person. He did adoption work in the early 90s, so he's so happy to just reunite adoptees with their birth families, and he was just so easy to speak to and wonderful. And we made arrangements to do an official birth family search, and it only took him about a month. It was pretty quick. And
Wow.
one morning, he tells me that, okay, tomorrow is going to be the day. I'm going to make the trip. I have all the information I need. I'm going to go and knock on your birth mother's door. So I said, okay. So I'm anxiously waiting by my phone for an update. And I wake up one morning and I get a text from him saying, hi, this is Danny. I'm with your birth mother and she wants to FaceTime with you.
Oh
And
my
I'm like,
gosh.
what? I certainly was not expecting that.
Yeah.
Um, so that threw me for a loop for sure. But at the same time, I said, how could I not do that?
Yeah.
How could I not, take advantage of this opportunity? So my phone rang, I hit accept. And then for the very first time, I actually saw my birth mother on FaceTime. And it was just such a crazy experience because all of a sudden I had a loss for words. I couldn't even speak. And all I wanted to do really was like study her. I wanted to look at her face and
Mm.
see, you know, do we have any similarities or, you know, do we have any facial features that
Yeah.
are the same? You know, what's her demeanor like? What is her body language saying? I just wanted to like stare at her. Um, and of course, you know, the whole conversation was being orchestrated by Danny, translating everything. So the whole language barrier made it a little challenging. But, you know, we just had this beautiful conversation and she just wanted to know about my life. And she told me that, you know, she hopes that I don't have any ill feelings for her. And I told her I have anything but ill feelings for her.
Oh,
And you know, we spoke some more and she asked if I would be willing to come to Romania and visit her. And
wow.
surprisingly, without hesitation, I said, yeah, you know, I would definitely be interested in this. And you know, I got off the phone and I wondered, you know, was I just being polite? Did I mean it? I don't know. You know, I just answered so quickly without really even giving it much thought. And you know, that took place in August, and then I took a trip there early December, and I met her and I met my sister, and it was just the
Wow.
most amazing trip. It really was.
That's crazy. It all happened
Yeah.
so fast.
Yes,
It's
it
so
did.
interesting because everyone's journey is so different and process and experience, and that's crazy. I know for me, I've been in reunion for about a year and a half with my birth family, and in the search process, like I provided my documents, and that took the longest time through a private
Hmm.
investigator. And then once I sent in my documents, I didn't hear much of anything back from her until it took only 3 weeks too, so about a month as well, which I was
Pretty
expecting it to
quick,
be way longer. And
right?
maybe it was a defense mechanism, but I also like wasn't sure I was going to even find anything. It's like, okay, I had to be okay with whatever happened and or whatever I would find out. And she didn't say anything to me until like I got an email of this written report back of everything that happened or what she found out. And she did an interview with my some of my birth family, and the others she called. And so I know,
Wow.
so for you, was it just your birth mom that was on you? Or like, not on, your birth mom that was on with you that called?
Yes, on that original call, it was just my birth mother. But when I, you know, made the trip out there, I got to meet everyone. So I got to meet my birth mother, I got to meet my sister, I got to meet their family, and it was just, you know, you go into that type of experience, and you know, I almost didn't want to have any expectations because you know, you almost don't want to feel disappointment, you don't want to set the
Yeah.
bar too high, but at the same time, you know, you're human, you can't help but hope that it all goes well and hope
Oh,
that
for sure.
they, you know, welcome you and that it's a positive experience for you. So you're kind of in this limbo. But I really tried to go with the flow as much as possible and not to have too many expectations. But when I got there, I mean, they went so out of their way to show me so much love, and they opened their homes to me, they opened their hearts to me, and they all exceeded my expectations beyond belief. So I couldn't have been happier with my decision to do that. And you know, the way things just kind of all fell into place, it seemed like it was just meant to be, you know. And all
Yeah.
this, of course, happening before COVID really hit and impacted us as well. It was just like I was
Oh,
able
for sure.
to get this all done and make the trip out there before things really, you know, all our lives were kind of impacted by it. So yes, it was meant to be, I feel like, and it was such a positive trip.
That's crazy. And how long ago was this?
So it was just last year. It was just last December.
Last year. Wow, so we're kind of similar in terms also of just the timing of everything. Of course, that is
Yes.
so sudden to be in such direct contact with your birth family. I know for me, I didn't start off in just videoing or being on video with them. I definitely, for me emotionally, I had to I wasn't ready to Skype, which it kind of threw me off because I thought, oh man, I immediately want to see them. But I almost just, I didn't even know what to say first. I wanted to start off in writing because I knew that just messaging, I would have so much mentally and emotionally to process. And then I
Yes.
definitely would, I remember my first Skype call with my birth family. I had my birth mom, my maternal grandmother, and
Wow.
half brother, Edik and Russia, saying their names, but um, anyway, and I do remember also studying their mannerisms and faces, and also I just used Google Translate. Like I didn't even have anyone translating with me the first time.
That's amazing.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and so I want to know who again in your birth family that have you connected with, like been in connection with?
I would probably say my sister. You know, she has made it so clear that she really wants to be a part of my life, which is so amazing because just going back to, growing up as an only child, and always kind of, wanting a sister or wanting a sibling. I feel like throughout this whole experience, that's what I gained. I gained a sister out of it because every day almost we talk, we use Google Translate to communicate. And of course there are challenges with the language barrier, but we talk, and every morning she sends me this, really sweet text with like a picture of coffee, and she says, "Sister, let's have some
Oh,
coffee." So, I mean, it's just nice, that she really has taken those efforts to want to be a part of my life and want to connect and know what's going on. And for her, I imagine it was even stranger growing up believing that she was an only child because she's part
oh,
of the Roma community where they all have like a ton of siblings and such large families. So for her, she must have just felt so isolated growing up.
mm,
And, I thought about that too. Just the differences that we had in growing up and our lifestyles. And my heart went out to her because, all these years she thought that she was an only child as well, living in a
yeah.
society where that's such a rarity. So,
That is so true. And I know you learned a lot about the Roma culture. Is that
yeah.
how you refer to it?
Yes, you could
Roma
Roma,
culture.
Gypsy, it's the same thing. And some people are hesitant to say the word gypsy because they feel like, there's some negative connotation to it. But, one of the
Mm,
things that I actually learned and uncovered was that the word gypsy isn't a negative word at all. And that's part of the challenge for people in the Roma community is that they're trying to overcome that because they want their children and they want their family to feel proud of being gypsy, and they don't want there to be this shame or stigma around the word gypsy. So I think unfortunately people have used it in a negative light, but it really isn't a bad word to use. So I kind of use Roma and gypsy interchangeably, and that's perfectly okay and accepted.
wow. Yeah. And so, like, would you say? I'm very clueless in terms of like what the Romanian culture is like, but what would you say it means to be gypsy? Like, what is the heart of gypsy for you?
What is the heart of gypsy
I
for
don't
me?
know if that's an incorrect question.
Yeah, I mean, that's a hard question to answer. But I think the drastic cultural differences were really interesting for me to learn about. I had mentioned earlier on that it's a society where arranged marriages are still practiced, as early as ages 12 or 13. And, the women there,
Mm,
especially the time that I would have been, raised and brought up and lived there, women, education didn't have such a strong level of importance and value. So my birth mother actually can't read or write.
wow.
Um, and my sister only went to school up until I think the fourth grade. So, who knows if I ever would have been able to. And mainly the women, they stay home and they tend to the husband and they take care of the children. And it's just such a different way of life. So, and that just kind of goes back to
Mm,
why I'm so grateful that, I've been able to access so much more and, pursue so much, different levels of opportunity here that I never would have had access to over there. And,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to think about that, how different my life could have been versus what it is now.
For sure, definitely. I feel like that really is the case for all of us. And so many people just, their upbringing changes how they view their situation. And I'm trying to think. Sorry, I can hear myself repeating on the microphone. I don't know if that's how it is in the real audio or
Oh, no, I
not.
don't hear it.
But you said you can hear me well. Okay, good. Um, I'm trying to see. Okay, never mind. But, and I think it's really cool too that you really considered the context of where your birth family's at. Just, I'm sure that really helped you gain an acceptance and understanding of where they're coming from, because that's so important when you find out about your birth family and just what all, because there's so many answers. And for me, the answers I got, I didn't get them all right away. Kind of over time, I found more out, and some of it was good, and there's a lot that was really hard to hear, and it actually had more gave me more questions that weren't answered, and I eventually had to come to a point of like I value our relationship, and I want that to continue first, and over time the rest will come and be answered. And so I know Google Translate, there is that language barrier, but I can really relate to just how sweet it is to be able to connect with your birth sister. I'm more close to my birth mom, but I do have a half brother who I talk with too, and I've been able to have some deep conversations, but it is even just no matter how deep you can get, like it's the meaning and the effort and intent that
Yes.
really counts behind it. And I think that consistency, I feel like even today, connecting long distance for me is really hard to stay in touch with people, but I've learned like you can make time for those who really mean the most to you. And so that's really sweet to hear about you and your sister. And I hope that gives hope for like a lot of other people out there, maybe who haven't had, such that connection yet with their birth family. And I wanted to hear from you too. Like, do you feel, I'm sure it was an emotional roller coaster for you. It was for me. I had to learn how to balance my life out. And has your relationship, the dynamics of your interaction with them changed over time? Like, I know for me, for example, like I was messaging them every single day. Like, we were messaging back and forth, a lot of messages, and it's kind of slowed down a lot, and our lives have changed.
Mm-hmm.
Does it feel that way for you?
I'd say yes and no. I think we're in different places in our lives. Like for me and my sister, while we still communicate a lot, I have two little kids at home. I have a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old, and I'm due March 4th with my third. So, I'm kind of always busy, so I don't always have time to respond to all of her messages, and sometimes I feel guilty because I just can't get to speaking with her as much as I would like to, um, but I feel like there's been a lot of consistency actually in terms of just, us communicating, and, it's not even so much the frequency of how much we communicate. It's kind of what's said, in the conversations that we do have. And,
Definitely.
she always manages to say, Daniela, my birth mother, and I, we're sending you so much love and so much health and good wishes. And, there's just always so much positivity and so much, willingness to connect. And, she sent me a package of like baby clothes for when the baby boy comes.
Oh,
And it's just, her just taking all of those steps to really want to be a part of my life and make that clear. And that's been really meaningful for me. And I know that regardless of how frequently we speak, whether it's
mm-hmm.
on a daily basis or weekly basis or whatever it is, I gained a sister, and I feel like we're always going to have some type of relationship where we're connected. And I think that's really special.
Oh, I love that. And I definitely agree so much of what you said. It's taken me time to learn that for sure, just the balance and like again, like quantity over quality, or quality over
That's
quantity, in
quality.
terms of over frequency, and
Right.
just to hear from
Exactly.
them is always like good to hear from. And I know for me, I ask them a lot, like we'll talk about each other's lives to the extent that we can, and it's very interesting to, like, sometimes, like, if they're having a hard time, like I feel for them and we'll feel for each other. But if it's a great time, we'll laugh together. And it just, there's
Yeah.
been so many ups and downs with each other in our lives. But of course, every person's experience is so different. And I wanted to ask more too. In your journey, you set out to write a book, right?
Yes,
From
I
Gypsy to
did.
Jersey, and I
Yes.
definitely want to read that. It's on my
Oh, thank
list.
you.
It's
Thank
on my
you.
list of things to read.
Yes, I have
Yeah,
right
so
here
tell
actually,
us.
my little book from Gypsy to Jersey. It's something that I've always been wanting to do, write a story um, about my adoption journey. And just, I never had all the pieces to my story. So I just kind of knew that when the time came where I was ready, and I wanted to explore that part of my life further, I knew that one day I would just write a book about it. So that's basically what I did. And it was just such an interesting process and journey for me, and I'm so glad that I was able to accomplish it. Um, there's just so many different layers, and I think there's so much more than just adoption in the book. It just
Mm.
covers so much. It's just about connecting with your roots, and it's also about my parents' journey, how they were led to me, and the whole
Oh,
process of the birth search and the reunion. And there's just so much reflection throughout. It leading up to the reunion, during the reunion, once you kind of return back to your life from your reunion. There was just so many things that stuck with me and stayed ingrained in my mind from my trip and from my birth mother and from my sister. Um, it's just right, like somebody just wrote, I guess the journey never really stops. And I think that says it so
yes,
well.
for
um,
sure.
and once you kind of once you just make the commitment to kind of open your life to these people, they just kind of become a part of you in some way. And like what you were saying, it was like, yes, when they're having a hard time, you feel it, even though they're so far away, you just feel it. And
Mhm.
when something positive happens, you feel that too. So yeah, so I was really excited to release my book in November, which was National Adoption Month, which I didn't even
Yes.
realize at the time. So that was kind of a wild coincidence and exciting to get that out there. And yeah, I hope people check it out, and more importantly, share their feedback and connect with me, because I love connecting with other adoptees and kind of hearing about your journey and your experience, and what point you're at in your life, with it. So yeah,
Wow, that's such a big accomplishment, and that's
thank
awesome.
you.
Congratulate you for that.
Thank you.
Alex Gilbert says, thank you so much for joining us. Definitely incredible story, and I know there's so much more in this book. I'm definitely going to read it. And I
Thank you.
listened to you actually share on a podcast called Adoption Squad, I think. And
Yes.
I heard you mention you have a website, right?
I do, yes. You can check out some more information on my website, which is www.fromgypsytojersey.com. So please check it out whenever you have a chance. And I really appreciate all your support. And I'd love to hear from you.
Yes. Go check it out, everybody. I have so many questions because there was another one I had. So you said you have kids, and I just want to know from another adoptee how being an adoptee changes your perspective, or how having your own kids changes your perspective as an adoptee, or vice versa. Like, what was that experience for you just over the time having kids of your own?
Well, I think, I think it's something that I've always reflected on, more so with my with my mother, because, part of my story is how that my parents, they tried for like 10 years to conceive and they couldn't. And that's always been kind of, something that's stayed with me. And I know how hard it's been for my mother, even today, talking about my adoption and adoption in general. You can just tell that it brings back some painful memories for her, and just kind of her whole experience with that. And, I think about that a lot, just the fact that she couldn't have kids. So, being blessed and being able to have kids is obviously an amazing thing. I also reflect on the ages of my children. I have a 2-year-old, and that was the exact age of my adoption. So it's kind of remarkable to look at her sometimes and think, I see how she is, and how, the age of 2 in general is such a clingy to mommy kind of age. And, there's separation is so difficult. And, that's something I think about. What was that like for me when I was 2 years old? I have no recollection of anything being so young, but just looking at my daughter, I think about that, and I think I see how clingy she is to me, and how she always needing her mommy. And I think, like what was going through my head at the time of the adoption, and how difficult was it for me to separate from my birth mom, and have that experience. And, in some ways it's easier not having any memories or recollection of that. But, it's something that I definitely think about looking at my own kids.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure it's really special just to see like the life they're able to live, and the amazing mother that's raising them. And
Oh, thank you.
And do you want them to be connected to the Romanian gypsy culture as well?
I haven't thought too much about it yet. I think just because of their ages, they're still so young. I haven't even really, explained to them what adoption is, or that mommy is adopted. I feel like, my oldest one is 5, and I think you really have to kind of assess, the level of maturity and different factors before you kind of, have that conversation with your kids, and just kind of see, at what point are they really ready to understand? Because I think adoption is something that's difficult to understand for many people. It's such a complex thing that even adults struggle with comprehending. So let alone a 5-year-old. So, I look forward to the day where I can have that conversation with her, and, share that part of my life with her. But we're not there yet. But, one day I do hope that my birth family can come and visit me in the States. And I think at that point my whole experience would just be complete, and it would be full circle. And at that point, my birth mother could really see firsthand, that the decision that she made to put me up for adoption was a good one. And just really having the chance to see everything that I have and the life that I have, I think would be so rewarding for her. So, I would love to give her that chance to see my life. And I'd love for her and my birth sister to, meet my kids and meet my family.
Oh yeah, that would be so amazing. I hope that happens for you. And yeah, with kids, it's fascinating because I'm like studying a lot about TESOL, teaching English to speakers of other languages, because that's kind of something I'm passionate about, and learning all about language development, and even in psychology, just child development, and how critical the first 4 years of your life is. And being
Yeah.
adopted, I was adopted at 4 years old, but I don't have any memories either. And it's crazy because some people do and don't, but I truly believe that we do have memory, just pre-verbal memory deep down. And I know for me, when my family did foster care with a young child, it really, especially when we were planning to adopt her, and then that didn't really follow through as we had thought or hoped. I remember just thinking like, wow, that it felt like being her being taken away from me. And I was like, wow, was that like what it was like for my birth mother? And that was before, years ago, before I even knew, you know, my birth family, the situation behind it. I know that was a point for me that really triggered a lot of emotions that I just didn't know growing up. I didn't identify. And I know there's a phrase in the adopting community, coming out of the fog. And I don't know if that was really when it was, but that was when I really connected to the emotions and went through therapy for me to just identify and learn more about my past and what it means to be adopted. And we both grew up in homes that really spoke positively about adoption. And I know for me, I also felt positive about it growing up. And I know you had mentioned too about your birth family coming to see you in the States. And that would be amazing if that happens. I know with the pandemic, like, did you have something planned for that already?
No, when I was there, I kind of introduced the thought, an idea of them coming to visit me one day, and they all seemed interested. But then, of course, with COVID and everything happening, those kind of put a halt to those plans and arrangements. But I still kind of feel in my heart that like one day it'll happen. And when that time comes, there's no rush for it to happen, but whenever it happens, it happens. And I think, like I said, it will just kind of bring everything full circle for me, because I got the chance to see what my life would have been like there. But for her to really see my life here, I think would just mean the world to her. And all those years of her not knowing, was I happy, was I healthy, what was my life like? I think for her to just come and see my life would just mean the world to her. And I hope that that can happen.
I hope so too. Yes, I know me, I haven't gone back to see my birth family. Like, I know them, I've built this relationship with them, but like long distance over time, and I've never met them face to face. And so I also hope that happens. But I had plans to do that last summer. But of course, with the pandemic, it also stopped it. But actually, I see it as like a blessing in disguise, because I'm getting to know them even more before we meet up. And I'm really looking forward to it. I feel like it will help. It will make it so much more sweeter to finally see each other. I'm hoping it happens. Of course, there's no guarantees.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I hope that happens for you, because it was really a fulfilling experience for me.
Well, that's great to hear. And I know I hope other adoptees are encouraged by your story, because it's really powerful and inspiring. And just to see like an experience and journeys, like it is what you make of it. And it's amazing to see just what you've made up of, your journey. And so I have one more question for you. And you can answer this however you want. But what, as an adoptee, especially, actually I have two, I'm sorry. I don't even know how far we are on the time, but I think until this cuts us off. No. But what, growing up, since you had such a positive experience with your family and as an only child, like what did your parents do for you growing up that helped you, that you appreciate the most as an adoptee, especially just to inform other maybe adoptive parents or prospective adoptive parents who may be watching?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing that they did for me, and that adoptive parents can do, is just be open. Be open about the adoption, and be supportive and welcoming of questions and curiosities. And when the time comes that you want to explore that part of your life, make it easy for them, make it, be that level of support for them. I know it was really difficult for me to have that conversation with my mother when the time did come to, let her know that I was going to go and make that trip to Romania. I mean, it was just really hard for me to kind of like have that conversation. And I think, other adoptees can relate to that, and just how to approach that conversation with your parents, because I think to some extent we feel this level of loyalty, to our families, and we don't want to hurt their feelings, or we don't want to, have them feel like any sense of rejection by wanting to explore this part of our lives. So, yeah, I would just say, having that level of openness and being supportive throughout the whole process in your life. And I think that's the most important part, because I think it definitely did help me by always knowing that I was adopted, and always knowing that if I had a question, that I could ask it, and that they would answer it.
Definitely. Wow, I would agree with you on that for sure. And I hope other adoptive parents are listening. That definitely helped me a lot. Just like my parents, like I know different people have different ways of giving and receiving love, and adoptees, there's a lot of like insecurities or just different phases we go through in terms of, how we feel loved, and just feeling unwanted, or that fear of abandonment. I know I grew up, or I had those struggles inside. And I'm losing my train of thought, but definitely like making sure your child feels, yeah, like they can open up to you, and that always being there for you when you need someone to listen to, and just hearing you out and not trying to correct how you feel. I always
Right.
think that's always good too. And I know someone had said to me something about, they're not an adoptee, but they had mentioned like maybe not always having to be grateful for the situation, but being grateful in the situation. I don't know, just something so simple like that. It really changes your outlook, and I think that's so important, just to
Absolutely.
explore the different perspectives, even as an adoptive parent. So I know there's so many comments here, and I totally wish we had the chance and time to go through them or see them later. If you commented and want to share or have questions for us, please feel free to do that after the live talk, or comment as if you want to go through it and see it again, as it will be up later for those of you joining in late. So this has been a really great talk, and I know there's going to be so much that I remember later, but maybe we'll have to do a part 2 talk or something. I'd love for you to just be more, join us more, and it's great to meet you and hear from you. Do you have any like last words or advice for adoptees, or just?
I guess as far as advice, I would just say, to connect with other adoptees, and, hear other stories and experiences. I think it really helps. It really helps by feeling like you're not alone. While all our stories and circumstances are different, I think we are all connected in some way. And I think there's something really nice about that. And I'm really, embracing the adoption community more and more as I listen to other people's stories. So I would encourage people to just connect with other people, and also get involved with great organizations like yours, and, where adoptees have a voice and a platform to kind of share their story. And, if you're at the point in your life where you feel like, you can get those answers and you want to get those answers, it was really fulfilling for me to kind of fill in those missing blanks and get a clearer picture of my adoption story. And I think it could bring, a level of comfort, and just, and just support for you, and even closure. So it's just something to think about.
Well, thank you for sharing with us and joining us. Definitely thinking all about that. So well, it was
Yes,
great to
thank you
talk
so
to
much for
you.
having me.
Yeah, thanks everyone for joining us, and we'll look forward to doing more in the future. Just stay tuned, everyone, for what I'm Adopted has in the upcoming weeks. It's great to talk with you, and I hope everyone has a great day.
Thank you so much. Take care, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Yes, bye.
Bye-bye.